Into another topic now. We're talking about democracy and terrorism. Go back to terrorism.
Are there more questions?
Yeah, actually I have a question. For example, you said freedom fighters and terrorists, there's a thin line between those, yeah. And when do you think it's okay to use force, against
Government?
against the government, for example? When do you think it's okay to use force against a government?
I mean, I know what Sandra wants to ask. So, for example, in our own country, for the last 10 years, it's the situation where, exactly Miha said, like, democracy failed. Governments changed from left to right, and there were no significant changes. One government robbed us, stripped us away from everything, and then another government came in and they cannot dig themselves out. But to one thing that's like the only people that are actually suffering are not the poor people but the working class. Yeah. So basically everything that's going on is struggling the country and nobody can live. So what's the fine line where the nation, as like population of one country, can, how can I say, like, start to react without peaceful means, without demonstrations, because like demonstrations don't work. People, when they voice their opinions, it doesn't work. Government is just like. So like the thing is, what is the fine line? Is it the fine line when government strikes first, so you retaliate, or you attack first, bring down the regime?
Yeah, would these people be considered freedom fighters or just labeled terrorists, and,
If,
kind of like
in this case, terrorists, of course, because this government is democratically elected. I went to the elections, I vote for this government, they're not doing the right thing, okay, I will wait another 4 years, and then I will wait for like a third party, a fourth party, So our government is not oppressive. If you go to the street and you're peacefully demonstrating, they will not take you without any reason. You have some cases that the police we are talking on police brutality. So we have some cases, but if government have a cabinet meeting and say okay, we have to do something and send army and police on the street and to hit people, to kill people, in that case, I think you have a right to take a rifle or explosive and try to
kicks first. So basically it is who kicks first, and the point of view is from the government's point of view, so basically it's from one corner.
We can say that.
Are there any cases where, for example, like freedom fighters or labeled terrorists were actually
justified?
Yeah. Like at the beginning they were viewed as terrorists or freedom fighters, but later we would say that their actions were justified for a better cause. Was there ever like a situation like this? Yeah.
Well, every time organization who impose terrorist acts on the government or on civilians, consider terrorists from the very beginning. But after, for example, we have this example of IRA. First, they started to attack government, British soldiers, some civilians also. But then, after they gained the independence, they started to change, and they accepted a peaceful means. Like Gary Adams, he was a prime minister of Republic of Ireland, but also some sources said that he was an ex-terrorist. Although he said that, no, I was in IRA, but I wasn't militant.
He was cooking.
Something like this, yeah. But some sources said he did some, maybe wasn't plotting bombs, but making bombs, but his views on this struggle was militant. But he never went to jail or something. Now he's trying to deal with this situation of Ulster by peaceful means. So in that case, we can talk about about this. You know. But everyone who commit crime against the government or against civilians, if he got caught, he will be sent to prison.
More questions? I'll ask another one. So there are many people in the USA who believe that all Muslim people are terrorists or likely terrorists. What do you think of this belief?
I think this belief is completely wrong. If you're talking about extremists in Muslim population, we're talking about 0.5% maybe. Okay, when Al-Qaeda attacked US with some pulls in Muslim countries, they, like, I don't know, 40, 60 or 20, it depends on the country, said this is, they got what they deserved because they are oppressing Muslims. But if it was like in this very moment, but up now, like recent public polls say that in these some kind of countries, unfortunately I don't have a list here, but I did some research like 2-3 years ago about that. This percentage of people who are supporting Al-Qaeda is less than 10%, you know. And the people who are like supporting, they are like trying to explain what Al-Qaeda is trying to do. Like they want to show US that they cannot do what they want to do in the world. But people who are willing to join Al-Qaeda, it's really, really small percentage. And this the global fear of Muslims, especially in the United States after the 9/11, this is what Al-Qaeda expected to do. You know? Because, okay, let inflame fear, you know, so because they want that our society became violent. And because more like so they attacked the United States, Americans will start to attacking Muslims, their stores and everything. What happened after that, and then Muslims who are not radicalized, who are like peaceful, they'll be in despair and they'll try to attack Christians like this, not only in the United States but in Europe and in Muslim countries also. And so everybody is starting to fighting. And then they will have, we were right, you know, crusaders are against us, they're fighting us, you know, so...
So, can I extrapolate from that if we do have this quote-unquote war on terror, that the terrorists are winning at this point?
Well, when terrorists made us to change our way of life, that means they already won in one particular case. For example, now if you go, I was recently in the United States, I went to airport, like 30 minutes of, you know, checking, take your shoes off, everything. 15 years ago, the situation was different. And then lots of cameras on the streets, this new law in the United States that they can monitor people without any specific court permit or something. So they say like that the U.S. government cut freedom of the nation because of that. They're imposing police state. So in one case, terrorists made us to change our behavior, like our normal behavior was totally normal before. So in that case, we can say they're winning in some part.
And you were saying Al-Qaeda wants a caliphate, right? And is part of the idea of the caliphate is jihad, is a holy war, or
yeah, they think that if you
that's the way to get a caliphate is through a holy war.
Yeah, because now we have like every Muslim country is an independent country, have own government, but they're thinking that this caliphate is something like an empire. So they want to have this big empire, so with only one ruler, caliphate. And with this Sharia law, which is like a God's law on the earth. And they're thinking this is impossible to topple government by peaceful means. So it is necessary, it's necessary to take a weapon to topple government. And then if in every part of Muslim world we have Islamic regime, then they can be united under like a under one ruler, one caliph, and that means this empire will be truly Islamic empire, will be too strong, and it could resist to any foreign threat.
More questions?
although we're talking about jihad, it has to be clear that a jihad, we have two kinds of jihad, small jihad and big jihad. Big jihad is fighting against the evil in ourselves. So to be like a decent, to be a true Muslim, to live against Muslim rules, not to frighten people, not to oppress people, just to have a decent life. We have small jihad, which is a jihad against the infidels, but only if these infidels are attacking Islam. But and in the jihad, it's forbidden to kill children, to kill women. It's not even allowed to cut a tree if it's not necessary. But at Al Qaeda's interpretation, they said no, innocents, kill as much people as you can in order to get our goal. So this concept of jihad is something like can be wrongly interpreted.
More questions? I still have more. Go ahead.
I didn't really get clearly why the terrorists, these Muslim terrorists, are so much against USA. I mean, when did it start? Who started first? How did it?
So the very beginning of this animosity between, say, Bin Laden and his group and United States was in 1991. So when Iraq occupied Kuwait, and soldiers of the army, Saddam army, threatened to invade Saudi Arabia because of oil fields. And then Bin Laden was first who said, "Okay, we will offer you help," and Saudi court said, "No, we will not. Won't want you here. We will call our friends, the Americans, and they will protect us." And then U.S. soldiers stepped their feet in the holy ground of Mecca and Medina, and it was like similar to like a Crusader war. They said like this is a Muslim country. We Muslims, we are only allowed to defend our country, not some infidel soldiers. And that's how this global war started.
Okay, do you believe that the drone strikes carried out by the USA are an effective form of fighting terrorism? And as a second part to that, what is the most effective way to fight terrorism? Is it militarily, economically, through education, or all of the above? So start with the drone strikes.
Okay, so regarding the drone strikes, in some cases we can prove this. They killed Anwar al-Awlaki, for example, in Yemen. They killed lots of Al Qaeda leaders and important persons in Al Qaeda's network. On the other hand, these drone strikes can be really fatal to major population, to civilians, because people who are operating these drones 5,000 kilometers from the battlefield, sometimes they cannot, they don't have a clear judgment who is terrorists, who are just civilians. So in many cases, U.S. drones kill lots of civilians.
And like half and half. I mean, they shoot at a house, right?
Yeah.
And half the men are all maybe terrorists, but then there's women and children inside as well.
Inside. And also, it was in some cases there are people who are collecting some like oil from a spilled tanker, and so whoa, 50 people in one group, they must be planning some terrorist activity. Bam, and it was civilians. So in this case, we are talking about really big atrocities perpetrated by U.S. military. So in some cases they can be pretty effective and they can be good, but I think the some intels on the field have to be really, really like 100% precise, because it's not. I will not accept it to killing 20 civilians in order to get one terrorist is a good thing. No, it's not, because you are killing civilians. But we were talking, sorry, about...
The second part of the question was, what is the best way to fight terrorism? Is it militarily, economically, through education, or all of the above?
I think all have to combine all these types. But I think the most important thing is to educate people, to give them hope, to give them economic stability, to give them decent social life. Because, for example, why there's one good book or chapter in the book, why Muslims rebels, or why do Muslims rebel? So I put some notes here from this book because I thought that someone would ask me this. So these authors talk like most of people in Muslim states live in a vortex of social change. Social despair is paralleled with economic despair. Many young men finish their faculties, they have faculty degrees, they cannot find a job. Their governments are corruptive and the pace of change and despair to this breaking point. And they are really vulnerable, and so they are looking for a savior. So in this, they turn their back on the society, then trying to find comfort in the mosques, in the religion, and then in some mosques they got connected with these radicals who tell them, please accept our ideals, fight against these guys who are enemies. And in that way, we will get our freedom. So that means that these people trying to find some kind of comfort. So I think that a lot of money in some poor countries, like third world countries, have to go to educational programs, to build some schools, to build some hospitals, try to improve their economics. Not just to channel money directly to the governments who are corrupt, put the money in their pockets, and people are still without anything. And in that case, they became vulnerable, they became depressed, and then they became vulnerable, and then they trying to find some comfort. So I think that military operations sometimes are good. Sometimes you cannot defeat a terrorist without weapons. Sometimes you have to take a weapon to fight them. But I think the most important thing is to defeat the ideology. And it's also the most difficult thing. So you have to show people that this ideology is wrong. To kill people is wrong. To accept some modern values is better. And then we can say that what was a big change in Muslim societies? What has happened in the last almost 2 years? This Arab Spring, because people didn't accept Al Qaeda's way, and they went to the streets and then tried to bring some change first by peaceful means. But they were not waving the flags of Al Qaeda and militant Islamists or jihad, but they want to have a change in order to get like a free elections, democratic, liberal democracies. And now in Egypt, for example, we have for the first time in liberal democracy, people really went to the elections and they vote for this party, for the Muslim Brotherhood party. They elected their government, and now we can say that now we have really, for the first time, we have, I said, modern society in Egypt, modern political society in Egypt. On the other hand, in Libya, situation was different. People are trying to do the same thing, but they had to take their arms to fight against Gaddafi. In Egypt, we also had some clashes between police, but the point is that military played really important role in this change in Egypt. Yes, and in Syria we have a civil war because people want to change something. It's difficult because this regime, the Alawite regime, has tanks, has planes, has helicopters, big strong military against the rebels who are just fighting with assault rifles, some maybe heavy guns, so that they need help to topple this Syrian government.
So this state terrorism you were speaking of, is that when the government is oppressing their people, right?
Yeah, it's like an inner state terrorism. Yeah.
So how to fight state terrorism, for example?
With wild means. With wild means.
What?
with violent means.
Violent means.
Yeah.
So
This
that
is
is the only way, yeah?
yeah, because now, for example, in Syria, what we have, no, so like the people were on the streets peacefully protesting, but government sent tanks and soldiers and civilian and police to kill civilians, and the only solution for them was to take guns and fight. And this wasn't the government who was a government who was elected, you know. It was like a oppressive regime who was like an autocratic regime without any. It wasn't legitimized by elections.
Okay, I think we'll have to stop there. So thank you, Dario.